Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's update on Indian gold imports of gold and silver for the month of March 2017. I normally do gold and silver separately. Today I'm going to combine the imports of gold and silver in one YouTube. Now, India imported $7.7 billion worth of gold during the months of February and March, and just $294 million worth of silver. We're going to see what happened during the past couple of months. March Indian gold imports surged 342% post demonetization. Now, for those of you who need to get caught up, last fall the Indian Prime Minister announced that the larger rupee notes, which constituted about 86% of the then circulating cash in India, had to be turned in or they would become worthless. And that means turned in to get new notes or turned in into a bank account. And that kind of caught a lot of Indians off guard, and they had about 2 days for which to do it. And a lot of them just ran to the jewelers and bought gold before the rupees became worthless, before they had to turn them in. And then there was a cash shortage in India. And there was no cash because people are having difficulty getting the new bills. There weren't enough of them, or they had to open up bank accounts and get themselves some plastic cards and be able to transact digitally. But transactions kind of came to a standstill for a while because there was a lack of cash, and Indians are mostly a cash economy. And because of that, sales of gold and silver, everything fell because people didn't have the cash for which to buy their goods and services, including gold and silver. Well, in February and March, cash kind of returned to normal in India, and Indians went back to their business. Well, the business they went back to in terms of precious metals was clearly gold and not silver. As you can see, Indian gold imports are surging, and Indian silver imports are actually down year over year, 20%, from 449 tons imported in March to 361 tons this past March. Now, India does not have any significant gold mining production, has very little silver mining production, so it's not like they can rely on their domestic silver production to get their needs. In fact, India has or had just completed one of the largest solar energy power plants in the world, and for a few years they required a tremendous amount of silver to complete that. Now, Indian gold imports, let's take a look at the charts. Now, also, when Indians were able to buy gold and silver again, they clearly chose to buy the gold. And right now, the Indian festival is on, and we have headlines across India: crowds throng jewelers to buy gold. 30% more gold sold this year. So gold is clearly now on the upswing now that Indians have cash. Here is a chart that shows you March through March. You can see the dramatic increase in gold. Indians are price sensitive too. When the price of gold rose early in 2016 and early in 2017, you could see they hold off buying until the price drops. Indian gold demand, when Indians buy a lot of gold, it doesn't drive the price higher. It's the reverse. The paper markets tell them that the price is low, so they rush out and they buy more gold. When the price rises, it doesn't rise because of Indian demand. Actually, Indian demand goes down when the price rises. Let's take a look over the last 18 years or so. You can see Indian gold demand is generally relatively 5, 6, 7, 800 tons a year, but in recent years, especially during the financial crisis, it kind of peaked up last year because the price increased. Remember, we had price decreases. We had people buying on the way up, people buying on the way down, and then when the price popped in 2016, Indians kind of held back. Also, there was a 10% duty put in place at the end of 2013 on gold, and India has been basically trying to wean its citizens off of gold because it messes up with their balance of payments. Here's a longer term chart that shows how gold now buying is back the last 6 to 8 months after that period of time during 2016. But in dollar terms, India imported 26 times more gold than silver the past 2 months. So when Indians are able to buy precious metals, if after they've been kind of shut out for a while, they run to the gold, not to the silver. Here are the numbers how I figured that out. February, they imported almost 3 million ounces. In March, 3.3 million ounces. Total 6.2 million ounces. If you multiply that times the average cost of gold around that period, about $12.30 an ounce, it's about $7.7 billion worth of gold that India imported. Do the same for silver. They imported about 5 million ounces in February, about 11 million ounces in March, total of about 16.8 million ounces. Multiply that times 17.50 an ounce, which was the average about during that period, and it's about 295 million. Now, silver is not a gold substitute in India. People like to call it that in the United States. People like to think that silver has value because it's useful. Well, that's true, but you know, grain alcohol is more useful to get drunk with than Bordeaux wine. That doesn't make it more valuable. This idea that silver is valuable, it has a lot of uses. So does copper, and water is even more useful than silver. I'm not sure that because something is useful, it gives it more value. In fact, the fact that gold is purely a monetary metal and an adornment gives it more value. You don't need 101 reasons to make gold useful. The monetary value is very significant. The fact that it's almost all monetary value, just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is useless other than for its monetary value. That's why it has value. And also just from the adornment, if you're looking at jewelry, ask a significant other whether they'd rather have a gold ring or a silver ring. So the fact that silver can be used as little chips in electronics, is copper is used in that too. That doesn't necessarily give it value. I like silver, I like gold, but I don't worship one or the other, and certainly don't worship one over the other. But let's see what happened with silver. The silver imports here, March year over year, you can see they've really, ever since they finished that silver plant, that solar plant, the amount of silver that Indians have been bringing to the country is on the decline. Now they did have that big year, that peak year in 2015, but they're back down, not importing as much silver as they had. And you could see here that basically for about 18 months, silver imports have kind of come to a standstill. Now, it's still significant. You know, when you're importing 11 million ounces in a month in March, you know, annualized, you're talking about over 100 million ounces, which is far more than the record year that American Silver Eagles had of 47 million. So I'm not denigrating India's appetite for silver. I'm just saying that their gold appetite is far greater. But India is a significant consumer of silver, not just for solar, but they also, you know, they like it for jewelry. And when you have a burgeoning middle class and people can't afford gold, sure, they'll buy some silver jewelry, some silver bangles, slap them on. It's not like they don't like silver, but it doesn't have the religious significance like these festivals that they have of gold. Well, there it is. Let me know your thoughts. But keep in mind, when you hear all these stories that silver is destined to go up, gold-silver ratio has to come down, there's a lot of factors involved, and it's not a slam dunk that that's going to happen. And we'll be talking about more of that in the coming days.